Harsh is a friend and a colleague. I'm honored to be a member of his Marico Innovation Foundation, which is really doing great work in spreading innovation, the culture of innovation across India. They work with business people, entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs to spread innovation. Okay, so Harsh is going to speak on the culture of innovation today. But for those of you who know of Marico, have you used the Marico coconut oil and the Ayurvedic oil and all that? Yeah. So he took a business that was traditional, was it spices and edible oils, and transformed it into one of India's largest consumer goods companies. Right? So he's a sort of legendary entrepreneur in that sense, and there's a lot we can learn from people like Harsh. You might wonder, what does that have to do with me? Well, it's not about running a company necessarily. Anything we do, if we can become more creative, more innovative, more curious, then we can improve our lives. We can increase our productivity. So he took some time off, and I'm very grateful, Harsh, you could make it. He's got a brilliant suggestion. He saw very quickly the kids teaching the children. On the 23rd of February, there's the annual Marico Innovation Award. And they bring in about 1,000 people into a massive hall in South Bombay. So he's suggested, why don't you get some of these children and have an exhibit, a display of the Agastya models and experiments before the visitors enter the main hall. So that should be exciting. We will work with some of the schools here, the teachers and the children.
Thank you, Ramji, for that introduction, and I want to congratulate Ramji for taking this this journey in Agastya, and they have been winners of our innovation awards, and that's how I came to know him. That happened, I think, 2 years back. And then after that, we asked him to join our Marico Innovation Foundation Council, and he's been a very active member. And our whole objective in the Innovation Foundation is to fuel innovation in India. And if I look back at my own history and my own journey, I think innovation and people have played the most important role. Because I started with something which, making edible oils, and then I think most of our value add came from converting loose oils to packed, and then from oils to other products, FMCG products and services. So, and all that has happened mainly because of innovation. And if I had to look back at what are the key triggers in our journey, I can clearly say that whenever we have had some disruptive innovation in any of our product, the growth rate has just gone up. And I'll give some examples, then I'll sum it up with what makes an organization innovative and how does innovation happen on a perpetual basis in an organization, and what kind of culture is needed to create that innovation on a perpetual basis. Because in a highly competitive world, you cannot just say that I've innovated once and say I've done my enough. You have to continuously innovate on a regular basis. So when I started working at a very young age, there was this brand, Parachute Coconut Oil, and sold in very small parts of Maharashtra, Vidarbha, small parts of Gujarat. And my first step was, if it is sold in these geographies, why can't it be sold all over the country? And I started appointing distribution, started traveling internally, and the business increased, but up to a certain point. From a 0 or 1% market share, we got about 15% market share. But then it stagnated, and then we said, how do we take a quantum jump in becoming a market leader? So at that time, and I'm talking of early 80s, the whole coconut oil market was in tins. So everybody was packing coconut oil, coconut product in small tins. And we said that if we can convert that product or packaging to plastics, it will be cheaper than tins, it will be attractive to the consumer, it will also be convenient to pour, and we thought that we had a winner on hands. But what happens is that many times we don't know what will be the reaction from the consumers. So normally in anything we do, we try to find out from our consumers, from the trade, because we sell our products to the trade, like wholesalers and distributors and retailers. So we went to them saying that we are coming out with coconut oil bottles in plastic instead of tins, and there was a huge resistance, saying that it will never succeed, because 10 years back somebody else had launched coconut oil in plastics in a square shaped bottle, didn't do a proper job of packing, a lot of oil on the surface of the bottle. And when the retailer closed the shop and opened next morning, they were shocked to realize that all the coconut oil was bitten by rats. And not only the bottles, but the whole shop was spoiled because of that. So they said, no, we are not going to stop. But when you are an entrepreneur, an innovator, you never give up. You have to go on trying. And we said that, how do we overcome that resistance? So we went back to our drawing board. We told our packaging vendor to design a bottle which is difficult for a rat to get a grip on. So that's how a round shaped bottle came in. We told our packaging department to say that no oil should come out of the surface of the bottle, so the rat cannot smell that there is coconut oil in this bottle. And we did all that, and we said that just by doing that we will not be able to prove to the trade. So we went we kept those bottles in a rat cage for a few hours, maybe 10 to 12 hours, and realized that the rat was not able to bite our bottle. We took pictures also, and with that we went to the trade and we said that this is something which has worked for us, and we are willing to give you a guarantee that if there is a damage, we will compensate you not only for the damage to the product, but if there is a damage to the shop because of spillage. And slowly over a period of time we were able to increase our market share. We priced the product a little lower because the cost of packaging was lower. We were able to advertise more, convenience of plastics to consumer. And over a period of time our market share just jumped up from 10-15% to, we became a clear market leader, 50%. So at one level, in a product like coconut oil, which is so-called commodity product, there are opportunities through packaging. So once the product became popular, coconut oil, especially in cold weather in many parts of India, it freezes. So the consumer was finding it inconvenient to use coconut oil in plastic, because every time they have to heat that bottle. So, and everybody would go back to tins in winter. So we came back with a solution to have a wide mouth coconut oil jar with a spout, and all of a sudden that also stopped. And as the brand becomes popular, you start having copycats. So at one survey which was done, we were the most copied brand in India, and we were losing a lot of sales. So what do we do about it? We went back to some of our packaging vendors abroad. We went to some fairs abroad, and we identified somebody who could make a mold which was difficult to copy. It was a combination of a pilfer proof and a flip top cap. So we said that, okay, let's invest in this mold. It was costing, one mold was costing 2 crores or so. We invested in some molds and got them back, and all of a sudden again the copycats vanished. It was a matter of time in India, as all of us know, that you can do the same thing at a much lower cost. So it was a matter of time Indian mold makers were able to make a mold at a much lower cost. But what I'm trying to say is that, any brand or anything, any journey, you have to continuously go on innovating. And if I look back at this example of coconut oil, I think the key learnings which come to me is that you don't give up, You have insight, you don't give up, you try and go on experimenting. And then many times we think innovation is just ideation. It is much more than that. It is execution. I would sit every month and go on discussing with my team what is the contribution of plastic. We go on measuring, evaluating how can we increase plastic contribution. And over a period of time, the whole market turned from tin to plastic, and to us it became a very big brand. When we went to Bangladesh, after about 8-10 years in the early 90s, we found the same thing. It was a big market dominated by local players, the whole market in tins. And what we did in India, and over a period of 2-3 years, we were able to do it within a period of 1 or 2 years because we implemented everything together. And we saw an amazing impact of that. We got 80% market share in Bangladesh market because of just conversion from tin to plastic and being the first mover in this. So I think when does innovation become effective? I would say that most importantly it has to appeal to the consumer. There has to be some value to the consumer. Recently we we also have oats, Saffola oats. So we launched Saffola oats, plain oats, and there is a lot of competition from multinational companies like Kellogg's and Quaker, and they had already launched long time back. And because of our branding and distribution, we got some market share. But we said that 10-15% market share does not satisfy us. So what do we do to increase market share? So we went back to the consumer and realized that the Indian consumer likes savory breakfast, not sweet breakfast. And normally when you buy oats, you make sweet oats. So with that insight, we said that if Maggi has done a good job in noodles by launching a range of masala noodles and a whole range of savory noodles, why can't we do that to oats? So we came with a range of 3 oats initially, depending on the region. In the south it was pongal and masala and one more flavor, tomato oats. And there are regional preferences in each part of the country. And we launched that, and that segment has grown very fast. And in that segment we have a 70% market share, which is much ahead of Kellogg's and Quaker. But because we had that insight that the consumer likes savory oats, we were able to design a product and market it. The same thing with a product like Revive. Revive is a starch, ready to use starch. And when I was very young, I was always asked my wife, why can't I wear starch clothes? And every time, oh my God, I have to boil the water, this, that. So there was a big unsatisfied need of a ready to eat, ready to use starch. So we launched that, and again we are the clear market leader in that. So there are multiple examples I can give in what we've done. One more example I can talk of is a brand called Medicare, which as kids, it's used for anti-lice. So we acquired that brand from Procter & Gamble, and it was only available in Medicare shampoo. And we had a lot of understanding of the shampoo market as well as the oil market, and we knew that the usage of oil, especially in rural areas, is more than usage of shampoos. So if we offer the same product in an oil format, we'll be able to increase sales. So after we acquired the brand, we came out with Medicare oil, and our sales just doubled because it was available to the consumer in a format which they were used to using, and they never used shampoos in rural areas. So like that, we have used multiple examples of innovation. And if I had to look back at how do you create a culture of innovation, how do people think of innovation on a regular basis, I think it starts with a certain mindset you create within the organization. The first is to recruit people who are diverse, because diversity leads to a lot of cross-fertilization of ideas. People coming from different backgrounds, some arts, some commerce, some chartered accountants, some MBAs, and when they meet, they think differently. Then again, gender diversity, and then you have geographical diversity. So when you have diverse set of people, I think there is a lot of fresh thinking comes in. Number two, just bringing them in is not enough. You need to have very good quality mind also. So you get good quality mind, diverse minds. And then we have to encourage experimentation. So organizationally, it's very important to send that message that I want you to experiment. Each innovation is not going to succeed, or many of them are going to fail, because it is something you're trying which is not being tried by somebody else. You may do some market research, but that has its own limitations. And ultimately there is no answer to getting whether the innovation is right or not unless it is put in the market. So what do you have to do to create a culture of innovation? You have to have a diverse set of people. You have to have a very open culture where people talk to each other, because innovation just doesn't happen in a lab. It happens through people talking to each other. Then you need to encourage people to experiment. You have to remove the fear of failure. So if somebody fails and if you punish, then gone. People will stop taking risks. So if somebody takes a risk and if that person is not given good increments because that risk taking was not successful, then nobody in the organization, because you're setting a wrong example. You are setting an example saying that I only want successful experiments, which is just not possible, you know. And then the role of top management is very, very important. The top management has to continuously go on reinforcing innovation. So if there is somebody who's coming to me making a presentation on a brand, they will know that I'm going to ask the question, what is the innovation you plan? And it need not be a big innovation, it could be a small innovation also. So, but the key, it could be innovation in media, it could be innovation in the way they have done advertising, it could be innovation in sales. So you have to go on reinforcing innovation on a perpetual basis. How do we reinforce innovation? Otherwise, we also have innovation awards. So every year we ask all our people in the organization to apply for awards. So every year we get about 15 or 20 entries for innovation, and many of them come from our own factories. A lot of innovation happens on the factory lines. And we actually select 5 or 6 best innovations and call those innovators to our functions where everybody is present, and they talk about just not innovation, but what was the process of innovation, how did they arrive at that innovation. And I think that again gives a lot of, basically it just excites people to take, experiment and innovate. So that's how we have created a culture of innovation. There is a saying that, you know, when you have high aspiration and limited resources, that's when innovation happens, because you have very high aspirations and your resources, financial resources are limited. That's when you're forced to think that if I have to achieve that, in spite of limited resources, how can I achieve? So I think it's a myth to say that innovation has to be backed by big budgets. On the contrary, if the budgets are small, people are forced to think innovatively. I think these are some of my thoughts on innovation. I thought maybe, Ramji, if you want to have some questions on innovation, we can do that. But that's how we run innovation. And I think innovation happens, it is relevant for a social organization, it is relevant for a learning organization like yours, it is relevant for a business organization because it is very competitive. And especially in a country like India, you know, we have a huge opportunity to leapfrog whatever we're doing in healthcare. Mobile, we already have leapfrogged, you know, through mobile revolution, because earlier, you know, in our earlier days, we used to wait for telephone connection to happen. It would take 6 months, 1 year to make calls, and all of a sudden we just went mobile, and you know, we are one of the largest mobile countries in the world. And I'm sure there are many other opportunities for us to leapfrog, whether it's healthcare, education, through use of technologies to innovate. And I think in that context, Ramji, what you're doing with the kids is amazing. I think all of them, because they are learning innovation technology at this young age, I'm sure they will think much more as when they grow up, and they will make innovation, they will have their own role in contributing to innovation within India. So with those thoughts, I will wind up, but I'm most open to having any questions.
Your journey with innovation, have you come across anybody getting into the invention space?
I would say that there are, in any organization, there are innovations which are small innovations. There are what you would call breakthrough innovations. And I think you need both. You can't just say, I will do. There are some organizations who are only looking at breakthrough innovations. Organizationally, internally, I can't call it inventions. There are more innovations.
Harsh, may I?
Yes, please.
I come from a design background,
Yes.
and my interest in innovation and the concept of innovation. How does innovation or creativity happen in a natural world which has a billion-year-old intelligence embedded into it? And how does, maybe it's slow to the eye, but it is consistent, as you say, it's constant, and we are at a stage where we are at because of that process. So, any thoughts on those?
See, I think if I look at the business world, in India, innovation was not on the radar of CEOs maybe 15 years back. But as competition has increased, I think most CEOs have realized that if I have to succeed in business on a perpetual basis, I have to innovate. And so competition and environment plays a very important role. So the kind of work you're doing in terms of education. The Silicon Valley, if you look at the example of Silicon Valley, I think there are multiple things which are happening in that valley because of which the innovations are flourishing. So it is education, it is thought leaders who are present there, it is sharing a lot of information, dialogues amongst different sets of people, and there is a lot of cross-fertilization of technologies. And today I think we are at a stage where technology disruptions are, I don't think it has been any time in the past that technology disruptions are hitting us, there are two ways of looking at it, are hitting us negative or they are opportunities for us. I think organizations have to look at it from the mindset of an opportunity. So how do I merge all those technologies and arrive something which is relevant for my business? And I think it could be for anything, So I think to sum up, I would say that a lot of outside in is required of what is happening in the environment. What is happening in that ecosystem of education, consultants, thought leaders, getting people from abroad, and then on top of that have people who are internally motivated to innovate, they're open, they're experimental, they don't have fear of failure. And I think it is a gradual process, but I'm seeing that the seeds of innovation in India are already happening. I think it's a matter of time. It's going to flourish over a period of time. But it's a slow process. It can take maybe 5, 10, 15 years. In Silicon Valley, it just didn't happen overnight,
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
One is, you talked about the enabling atmosphere of risk-taking,
Yes.
talking openly, etc. But inherently at an individual level,
Yes.
are there some quote-unquote prerequisites for someone to be innovative? And my second question is, what's the difference between being creative and being innovative?
Okay. I think prerequisites about being innovative at an individual level. I think a lot, to some extent, the education system in India has to be blamed, in terms of memory and rote learning and all that has to change. Because people are being forced to think, and again what Ramji is doing exactly on that front, he's forcing people to think. He's exposing them to different technologies, and I think that's very important. So if you are actually more in an exploratory mindset, and then you combine that with your desire to learn, desire to see what is happening, and you combine all that, and then you don't have a fear of failure, you're open and you're willing to bring in dialogues with your other colleagues, I think that's when the innovation at your individual level will help. Second question was creativity and innovation. Creativity is more, I think it is an individual level. I'm not a theoretician, I'm just a commerce graduate. I have not studied anything further. So I don't know whether, all I can say is that I personally think creativity is more at an individual level. And innovation is much beyond that. It is much more holistic, it is much more cross-functional, much more impactful. But that's how I think. I may be wrong.
Anybody else? One last question. We're going to keep it. Any of the students, anybody wants to ask a question? No? Did you enjoy listening to him? Think about it. Think about it. What I want to say is, did we capture this? So we must show it to all the corporate partners around India and of course all our employees. So I think there's a lot to learn. What Harsh was talking about. And one of the things maybe we in Agastya need to do more of is he talked about bringing people from different walks of life to interact. The Silicon Valley analogy that you used. We used to do that quite a bit, but perhaps we're doing it less because we're getting more comfortable in what we do. And maybe we need to break out of that and get more people like Harsh. I'm very happy he came because here we hear from an actual practitioner who's very articulate about the results of his journey in innovation. We can learn. So thank you very much, Harsh.
We haven't innovated on this yet.
Oh, very good. Excellent.